Everyone, I have another interview. I did this interview with Tyser Judah, and it seemed to be pretty popular. So I thought that I would do another interview on this channel. Maybe I'll start doing a bunch of interviews if you guys like that. But today I have Matt Kremer on, and Matt Kremer is someone who is really interesting because he's basically, and he'll tell you his story in a little bit here, but he basically went from rock bottom to like really doing well in the software development community, and then now into the kind of entrepreneurial community in a very short amount of time. So he's got like a huge number of hacks for how to do this, and so that's why I was really interested to bring Matt on. So welcome, Matt. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. I don't know if they're hacks. It's a lot of hard work, but they're definitely, I think I found a path that people can take.
Yeah. I don't mean to discredit by calling it a hack. I just mean it's a shorter path. Not that it's sometimes a shorter path is actually more hard work, right? Because you got to bushwhack your way through it. But yeah, just been impressed by how much that you've been able to do in such a short period of time, and thought maybe you could share that. So why don't you give a little bit of background about yourself? Sorry.
Cool. So, you know what? I'm going to start all the way at the beginning. Like you said, I started at rock bottom here. So that's the point I'm going to pick to start. So 3 years ago, like very close to right now, my wife and I had just gotten married, and we decided to, on a whim, move out to Minneapolis with like $1,000 in our bank account. We found a nice little apartment downtown, and 2 months later, neither of us had found any jobs.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So we were making no money at all. I'm a college dropout. I'm telling you, I'm applying at like Applebee's. I'm trying to get anywhere that'll take me, and we can't get anything.
And you're not talking Applebee's corporate. You're talking Applebee's like being
I'm like
waiter,
talking,
right?
I'm going to wait tables.
Okay.
Which is great. I mean, I love waiting. I used to work at Applebee's. I loved it. So I was like, oh, they'd hire me. I already got experience, right?
Right.
So here I am. I haven't even paid rent in 2 months because I couldn't afford it. Okay. And I walk out of my apartment to go to my Applebee's interview, and my car's gone.
Oh, gosh.
And I've got $400 left in my bank account at this point, and I can't find my car. I'm calling the cops. I'm calling the tow lot. Nobody thinks they have my car. So I'm calling Applebee's like, sorry, guys, like I got to find my car. Like I'll be there as soon as I can, I promise.
And they hear that all the time, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, yeah, okay, another one.
Oh, yeah, another one. He lost his car. Okay. So finally, it turns out the towing lot did have my car, and it cost me like $386 to get my car back.
Oh, gosh.
So, I mean, do the math on that. I got $14 left in my bank account, and Applebee's never even called me back after I got there.
You can't even get the two for two thing, two appetizers.
I can't even get the 2 for $20.
Yeah, there you go.
Not even on the cards, right?
Yeah.
So I get back from the interview, and I'm like, oh honey, like I think this might work. I go down to check the mail, and it's the first warning for my eviction.
Oh gosh, yeah, okay.
And at that point, oh man, I was so nervous. I couldn't get anything done. I went back to like tech school for a semester just to get just to have the government give me a grant so that I could try to pay my rent. I'm calling my parents, trying to get their help. And long story short, somebody from Milwaukee, back where I moved from, calls me up one day and is like, hey, Matt, I'm trying to build the software product at my company, but we don't have a software team. Do you want to work for us? And at this point, I'm like, oh, well, hell yes, I want to work for you. Like, right. I'm over here about to get evicted, right? And they're like, well, can you move back? And I was like, okay, hold your horses. So they started out paying me $15 an hour, and I was a remote employee.
Okay, so hold on. Let me fill in a couple of gaps here. So
cool.
$15 an hour, remote employee for this company as a software developer.
Yes.
Now, have you been writing code up to this point? Because you said you already had been a server at Applebee's. Like, did you know?
Yeah. So I had never had any professional programming experience.
Okay.
I did not graduate college for it. I took a couple classes and decided that the classes really weren't helping me.
Okay.
But I have been programming since I was like 8.
Okay.
So I knew my way around a little bit. I didn't know any like best practices by any means. Like I learned more probably in the first 6 months on the job than I had my entire life since I was 8.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So it was that kind of thing. A company was kind of willing to just take a chance on me, and I mean, at $15 an hour, who wouldn't take that chance?
Right. Yeah. Not too much of a risk.
Yeah. if you're a good server at Applebee's, by the way, when I was at Applebee's, I was making 23 an hour
Oh, okay. Okay. So
with
yeah.
with tips. So it's like I'm taking a pay cut to
Right.
come here have this company take a chance on me. And then, so let's skip the middle part a little bit. I want to tell you
Okay.
guys the ending, and then maybe we'll dive into it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. So
So,
where are you now? Like, yeah.
so
Okay.
where I'm at now, it's been 3 years.
Okay.
I'm currently making $70,000 as a software developer at a different company. I bought a house. I had my first baby, and I'm fortunate enough that my wife can stay at home and watch our son. That I make enough that she doesn't have to have a job. So. And I've been starting my own personal blog. I've got a
Yeah.
podcast. I wrote a book. Like I'm like, I feel like I've made a complete 180 and I'm like on top of the world right now.
Yeah, yeah, you're kicking butt because when you first contacted me, it felt like you were someone who had like a whole bunch of experience in the entrepreneurial space. I had no idea that just 3 years ago you were getting your car out of tow, you know.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so that's so yeah. I mean, it's definitely impressive. So how did you get from there to there? Because this is something like I don't know. Like I said, it feels like you're 15 years advanced, you know, from where
Yeah.
you should be. So how did you fill that in?
Now, speaking of being 15 years advanced for where I should be, I do want to note that in the Milwaukee area where I live,
Hmm.
programming is viewed, in my opinion, as a very blue collar job here.
Okay.
So my salary at $70,000 in the Milwaukee area is not that's like good here. Okay,
Okay, right. Yep.
so like if a recruiter calls me and I'm like, oh, how much money can you get me at a different job? And she's like, oh, well, I could probably get you $15,000 less than you're making right now.
Right.
So while some people might be out there and they're in like San Francisco where they see developers making, $120,000, like that's the equivalent of where I'm at
Right. Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. So yeah, how did I accelerate, probably $10,000 past even what I'm worth right now in 3 years? I use two very important pieces here. And
Okay.
one is becoming and treating yourself as a product champion. And then the second is assigning a specific dollar amount of value that you provide your company to yourself.
Okay.
So having a specific number. And I could dive into both of those things too and provide a little bit of story about how I did it if you want.
Yeah. Let's start with the product champion thing. This is something I haven't heard
Yeah.
before. The second one I've heard a little bit, but let's start with the product champion.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like I said, here in Milwaukee, programming is a blue collar job. So if you walk into a company and say, I'm a programmer, I'm a developer, they're immediately like, oh, that's the sunk cost guy in the back room who I pay to, work on our intranet. And like that's what they think of you.
I see.
That's the
Okay.
stigma is that you're just a programmer. You don't have any business sense or marketing sense or sales sense or anything. Like you get to go in your little box in your dark room and you get to program. And my tactic is to break yourself out of that stereotype as much as possible and become a product champion. So if somebody asks me, like, I don't even like calling myself a programmer. I
Right.
don't do that anymore. I call myself like an intrapreneur when I'm talking to companies, where instead of saying, or instead of your boss coming up to you and being like, oh, like, Matt, here, I need you to go fix these 4 bugs, do it, report at the end of the day, like, okay. And you're just like, yeah, boss, like, cool. And then you shoot him an email at the end of the day, like, yeah, the bugs are fixed. Like, you're not hands-on, okay?
Right.
So for me, when I got invited to this company, it was specifically to build one piece of software, a healthcare app that we were going to sell to hospitals.
Okay.
Okay. And so I didn't come on and say, yeah, I'll program that for you, make all the decisions for me. I came on and I tried to be as heavily involved in that product as I possibly could.
Yep. Yep.
So if we had product development meetings, I was in those meetings. If we had sales meetings, even though I'm just a developer, I was in the sales meetings.
Right.
We went to a conference in San Diego where we bought a booth, where we were going to try to sell our product to healthcare professionals that were at this conference. And I said, I want to man the booth.
Yep. Perfect.
So
Yep.
our lead sales guy during the conference, he went out and he talked to people like personally on the floor, and I sat there and I manned the booth.
Nice. Nice.
So it's like I'm, alone, and at the second conference we went to, my other fellow developer was with me, but it's like we had the developers manning our sales booth.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And for a small team, that's very, very important where you're taking the product and you're putting it on your shoulders instead of just letting people around you kind of tell you what you need to do and tell you what the bugs are and things like that. Like your boss comes to you and say, "Oh, here's an idea for a great new feature." And in the back of your mind, you're like, "Well, that sucks," or like, "Man, that'd be so hard to use," or "I know of a way that we could do this 10 times better." Don't keep your mouth shut.
Right.
Become that product champion and show your value to the company where you're not just a programmer, you're a step above that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that approach a lot, and I think a lot of what you said, like the hinging on on don't keep your mouth shut. It's because you showed up at the product meetings. It's because you showed up this. Now you have input. If you're just a quote programmer and your boss tells you do this, and you're like, oh, I don't think this is a smart way to do it, then it's probably not going to go over as well. But if you're the guy that's at the product meetings, if you're the guy that's
Oh, for
manning the
sure.
booth, like putting your butt on the line to be more than just the programmer, then your input's going to be value. And I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people, a lot of programmers, they just kind of do what they're told. They don't try to like. It's almost like owning your own corner. It's like
Yeah,
like you're a hustler inside. I like that you used the word intrapreneur because it's like you're an entrepreneur inside a company. You're building your little empire. Your business inside the company, and that's like. I mean, if you think about it from the employer's perspective, if you had employees that each like started building their own almost company within the company, that'd be awesome because you'd be like expanding in all these directions, and every instead of you putting forth all this effort, people would be growing the company for you, and that's kind of
exactly.
what I think of when you're describing that.
Oh, for sure. That is definitely, what I'm getting at is if you have these tiny little companies, and there's actually a word for it, they're called skunkworks.
Yep, yeah,
So, for those of you that don't know, a skunkworks is a small entrepreneur company inside of a larger company that is kind of given free reign, where they looked at us and they said, you have an idea for a healthcare product? Let's build it.
right,
And we were like, okay, so we did.
yep,
And we manage, I'm taking client support phone calls, I'm doing sales, I'm cold calling people.
right,
So, this is about breaking out of your boundaries and kind of almost adding more responsibility. Like you're
yep.
not giving yourself less work, you're taking on almost every job in the company.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. I always say give it when given the choice between responsibility or more pay, choose more responsibility because the pay
Oh,
will
for sure.
follow,
The pay
right?
always
Yeah,
follows.
yeah, and
You
that's
know,
the
that's,
thing. Yeah, a lot of people make the
yeah,
wrong choice. Is they like jump, they leave job or whatever because they're like, oh, I don't want more responsibility. No, 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 you want more responsibility. Responsibility is the big
yeah.
thing. That's the center of it. That's where everything else comes from. So.
Exactly. And as much as everyone tries to say that like no one is irreplaceable, the more responsibility you give yourself, the less replaceable you become. Like
Exactly.
it's just a
Yep.
fact. And if you think about it this way too, like when I came to this company, I didn't know anything about healthcare.
Right.
And I sure didn't know about like we were doing an app that audited hospitals like the government.
Right.
I didn't know anything about this. But when you've got the guy who does, and then you've got me, and he's saying you need to program this, this is how it works. Guess who else knows the system just as well as that guy telling me how it works?
Right.
I programmed the thing.
Exactly. Yep.
So you guys that are out there programming these apps in your company, but you start letting, the boss make all the shots, tell him that you want a little bit more of the responsibility, that you've got some good ideas for places you think you can go further. Because since you've programmed this thing, I bet you know the system as good, if not better, than that guy calling the shots.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes you can't even do the. I mean, you got to take the non-glorious thing, right? Sometimes you got to take the VB6 app that everyone's kind of
Yeah.
dejected, and because that's where your empire is going to like. No one wants it, so it's like, well, I'll take this plot of swampland and I'll turn it into a fertile, forest or whatever. Because so if you're trying to fight for the forest, people aren't going to give that to you. But
Oh, for
go and get
sure.
the swampland that no one wants, take care of it, nurture it, and then you've got your own little, little fiefdom that you're starting up there.
Oh, I completely agree with you, and I'm actually really glad you brought that up. I'm going to hit on that point a little bit in the next piece,
Yeah.
but right now, something I want to say about that is, a lot of people are afraid of those like legacy internal applications.
Yep.
So let's say you at your present job, you don't have the ability to go out and create a brand new product. Like it's just not going to happen. Your boss isn't going to let you do it. Like you don't have that kind of power yet. Okay. But you've got these internal tools that are, junk work that everybody doesn't really want to do. but you figure out how to take those tools and increase the productivity of the other employees in the organization by, 5, by 10, that's just as valuable as having a product with a dollar amount attached to it.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
So those legacy, those down in the dirt, that's swamplands, that's just as much of an opportunity for a gold mine as building a product and becoming that product champion. You're like an internal product champion at that
Yep.
point.
Okay, so shortcut one, or hack, whatever we call it, not easy, but that is taking the more responsibility by becoming the product champion. Basically, figuring out, trying to be more than a programmer, getting your hand involved in the, I guess I would call it the vertical, right? The
Yep.
entire process of business. It's not, as software developers, we're at the bottom usually, and we're just writing the code, but we don't touch the product development, we don't touch the sales, we don't touch the customer relations. Get all the way through that and become someone who actually owns that product in some respect, and it's gonna advance you, because instead of you coding away for 15 years getting little raises, now you're immensely valuable to the company in a very short period of time, because now you're a domain expert as well as really an expert in that product.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I 100% agree. And the second part is assigning a specific dollar amount of value to yourself.
Okay, so explain this a little bit more. I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
But
So to make this a little bit easier to understand, let's talk about a purchase order.
okay.
So you're a programmer and you need to get a new server. Okay. And let's say right now your current server can support 5 clients, and this new server you want can support 20 clients.
Right. Okay.
So you go to your boss and you say, hey, Joe, I need $10,000 for this new server, but it's going to quadruple the amount of clients we can have. So it's really going to help us out. And your boss is going to look at you and say, oh, I can get quadruple the number of clients. I can make more money. Let me buy that $10,000 server you need. And there's going to be no questions. There's going to be no fights. There's going to be no anything.
Right.
Because you've showed there's a specific value associated with that server, and your boss wants that value that he can get out of that.
Right. Versus if you just say, our server's slow, I need 10 grand to buy this server so it'll be faster.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I don't give a crap. You
Yeah,
deal with
like,
the slow server.
Is it working still? Well,
Right.
yeah, okay, then deal with your slow server. Exactly.
Right.
That's not a good argument.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of programmers, when they walk in for that discussion about getting a raise, that's how they walk in.
Right.
I met all my deadlines and I fixed more, a lot of the bugs, and can I have a $10,000 raise?
Right.
And your boss looks at you and they're just like, no, like no one in the company is getting a $10,000 raise. You can have 1%.
Right. Or like
and
the
you're like,
classic, right? Where they're like, oh, I got a new house and we're having a baby, and so I'm going to need more money.
yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah,
It's your
I don't-
problem, dude.
So, and that actually, it's funny you bring that up. I was put in that position while I was at this company. I got a new house and I had a baby.
Yeah.
So and after that, I was like, man, like I really need about a $15,000 raise.
Right.
Because I don't want my wife to have a job. So, at this point, I'm making, $55,000?
Okay. Right.
And, I got a new house, I'm getting a baby, like I needed to figure out how to make sure my wife could stay home.
Right.
Because, she was at, at a job where she was making less than daycare would have cost me. So it's like,
Sure.
I need
Yeah,
to
exactly,
figure this out. And, so no, I didn't just walk into the boss's office and was like, hey, I have a house and I have a baby on the way. Can I have $15,000 raise?
You
When
said
talking
we need
about,
a server.
Yeah, I said we need a server.
And then you
I
pocketed
took
the money. There we go.
I love it. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah.
So, and when you think about how ridiculous of a conversation that can be, like I make 60, I'm going in asking for or I make 55, I'm going in asking for $15,000 raise.
Right.
That's like a 30% raise.
Right, exactly.
At
Yeah,
that
you
dollar amount.
definitely
Like-
don't want to come in and say, "Can I have a 30% raise?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what happened is I waited a while. We were working on this new version of the product.
Yeah.
And I knew we had a lot of sales in the pipeline. And it's just me and 2 other guys on this product.
Right.
And I knew we had all these sales that were so close. So
Yeah.
I held out a couple weeks.
Timing.
And 1 week, my tool that, like I said, us 3 people were working on this tool, brought in $425,000 worth of checks.
Right. And how did you know
In a
that? Because
week.
most people don't know that.
And I
Except that you're the product champion, so you actually had numbers,
exactly.
right?
So I
Okay.
knew everything that was going on. I know when the sales happen. I know everything because I'm in there, and I
Yeah.
knew we just got this huge chunk. So I waited till the next week, and I said, "Hey, the new version. I'm almost ready to press the launch button here.
Yeah.
It's going really well. I've taken this program. It's going to be 20 times faster than the old version. We're going to be able to run data on hospitals like 50 times the size."
Right.
And we just sold $425,000 worth of checks. I really wanted to, and I tell them I really want to take more of this on my shoulders and run with this product with how well it's going. I want to help you build this into a great business that it can be. Can I have $15,000?
Right.
Can we talk about this raise of $15,000? It'll be at a much, then we're starting to get more of like a little bit above market rate, and I'll help you take this business further. We're in this together.
Yep. I like it. Yeah.
And there's no questions anymore.
Yep.
They don't look at you and they're like, oh, 30% raise? Hell no. No. They look at you and they're like, oh, 30%, but we did just get $425,000 worth of checks. And, if we're going to be able to do hospitals that are 50 times the size of the ones we have now, well, that's a lot more money. Yeah, okay, let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah. See
Like
that's
you
good.
help them talk themselves into it.
Right. It's just like the server. It's the business costs. It's you've now established what your real value is in real numbers because you know what those numbers are and they know what those numbers are and you can sell it because it's worth it. You know that you're bringing in X number of dollars just by being there. So, I think a lot of employers don't know how much their employees are worth. And so if you take it upon yourself to take that responsibility to say, okay, I can figure out what I'm actually worth to the company, then hey, as long as what you're worth is you're making above what we're paying you, then it's a profitable
Exactly.
situation, right?
Exactly. And I mean, $425,000 worth of checks in a week, if you just want to divide that by three, I'm still making you almost 45% extra money on top of what you're paying me.
Right.
Or almost double, not 45%, almost double. If I'm making 70 and they're bringing in like 133 for me,
Right.
so it's very much so assigning that specific dollar amount. Now, what you brought up earlier about, the swamplands, that VB6 app or that internal application
Right.
that maybe doesn't have a dollar amount associated with it, an internal sales tracking tool or an internal database that the other employees in your organizations use. A little bit harder to assign a real dollar amount to it.
Right.
But if you make an improvement to that app and everyone else in the company is like, oh, like I can do an extra 20 orders a day because the new ordering system you put in place has keyboard shortcuts and I can key through it faster and I can get 20 more orders in a day. Well, then you just go to your boss and say, hey, I just increased our efficiency by 20 orders a day per person.
Exactly.
It's my estimate that that's worth, $200,000 to you. Can I have, a $10,000 raise or whatever you want? So it's sometimes you got to think a little bit outside of the box with how you get that dollar amount.
Yep.
But there's no reason for the company to pay you unless that dollar amount exists. So it's somewhere. If you haven't been fired yet, there's, that dollar amount is somewhere to be found.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Actually, I was just reading through Brennan Dunn's Double Your Freelancing Rate book, and he mentions in there, like for freelancers to basically pitch to clients the same type of thing to say, look, hey, make sure that you figure out the dollar amount that you're going to save them by shaving like an hour or two off of the time or how many more orders they'll get. And then that's what your pitch is. So then you can charge a higher rate. And it's the same thing in the career side. I didn't even, just till you said this, I didn't even make the connection. But yeah, it's the same exact thing. You can basically show that you're saving the company money or you're making the company more money. Either one of those things will justify and then your pay seems trivial. Whereas like if you came in and said, I want a 30% raise, that seems, oh gosh, we only give like 2% raises or whatever it is. But when you say, look, I make like $100 and something thousand for the company and I need, 10K more, it's not it's a small fraction of what you're making for the company. So yeah, easy.
Oh, for sure. Now, one thing I do want to bring up, another kind of trick that maybe some people are encounter is a lot of companies, especially smaller ones, plug your job title into the ADP database.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it spits out a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Like literally, they plug in your title, the description, and it says this person is worth $50,000 a year.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes it's very hard to get through that ADP thing. Or maybe you feel like there's something else that's holding you back from the dollar amount, like your pushback.
Right.
Bring up the fact that you've become a product champion and that you no longer even fit your job description or your job title.
Yep.
Tell them literally like, hey, in my job description, it says I'm a programmer, but I'm sales, I'm marketing, I help you with customer support. Like I'm not just a programmer anymore. You know, we can't be held restricted to looking at my salary that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is all, the commoditization, right? Because we're getting, I mean, if you want
It's
to
blue
compete,
collar.
yeah, if you want to compete, you don't want to compete on a title because you can go to Odesk and you can get really good programmers in the Philippines for $10 an hour that will match you line for line of code. They might not have the best communication skills that you do, but they will match you line for code. And I'm not kidding. This is like a serious problem for software developers today. So you got to be more than just a programmer. You have to. Otherwise, you're going to be a commodity, and eventually you're going to get priced like a commodity, which is just it's horrible. You don't want to do that. So
Yeah, for sure. And then one other small thing here. I want to talk about Applebee's one more time.
oh yeah, okay.
And simultaneously, I also worked at McDonald's. So I was doing McDonald's and Applebee's before I moved to Minneapolis. I was doing like 70 hours a week.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And so if you're a programmer or you're a wannabe programmer, let's say, or you're maybe just in college or you're, even still in high school and you know that programming's something that you want to go to an organization you want to do and you want to become a product champion, if you're at a point in time right now where maybe you don't have a job or you're like I said, still in school,
Right.
I highly, highly advise you go get a job in food service.
Okay. This
It
is
sounds funny, okay? It
Uh-huh.
sounds funny, but when I was when I was a kid getting into nerdy programming when I was like 12 or whatever, like, and I'm talking to nobody and getting made fun of at school or whatever, I'm sure a lot of people, that was us, right?
Right.
We
Well,
were the
yeah,
nerds.
some of us. Okay.
Some of us. Some of us. Some of us were the nerds. You're over there. You've got the guns. I have no guns. So getting that food service job for me, I think honestly really changed my life because
Yeah.
it made me much better at communication.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
You're
I see it.
forced to go to the tables and talk to these people. Have conversations with them. Ask
Yeah.
them actually how their day is working. Wherever you are, like try to talk to people and break out of your personal boundaries
Yep.
to become more of a conversational person, to make yourself more at ease. When I was doing sales at the booth, I wasn't even nervous. It's
Yep.
like I talked to so many random people on any given day in food service. Talking to you and try to sell you a product that I spend 40 hours a week building and I understand 100% of how it works, I have no problem selling you this thing.
Yep.
So a lot of programmers, think they're holed up, or at least I feel like a lot of programmers, feel like maybe they don't have a whole lot of, I don't really want to use this term, but like people skills.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Break out of your box and it can make a huge difference. It'll make both of these things so much easier, especially when you're in that negotiation,
Yep.
to actually negotiate your raise and doing the talking. Like the more fluid you are, the more on top of your words you are, the better communicating you are, the higher raise you're going to get, and that's just a fact in my opinion.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. I didn't know where you're going with the food service thing, but it totally makes sense. I've often advised people to just go walking around the mall. Like a challenge for the day is you have to talk to 50 people at the mall, random people,
Yeah.
and say hi. And like it sucks. It's hard to do. I did that once when I was younger because I wanted to develop some people skills. Just get out of the being afraid of talking to people. Pays off big time. I mean, doing podcasts, like I always recommend, doing YouTube videos, things like that. That's another totally good way to do that. Like if you already have a little bit of experience, but yeah, I could totally see the food service as working too because you gotta get out of your shell. You gotta get where it's comfortable to talk to a stranger, and then so many doors open up, right?
I forgot one very, very important piece.
Oh, okay.
While I was working at Applebee's, there was a guy that came to the bar every night,
Ah,
okay, and drank buckets of Long Island's.
okay.
Like literally, we had buckets, and it was supposed to be like a fruity drink to be shared with 4 people, and he'd just drink it. He'd just be like, "No, give me the bucket with full of Long Island," right?
Okay.
So I made friends with him. Me and him were real good buddies. I moved to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That's the guy that called me and gave me the job at that company
Oh, okay. Okay.
at $15 an hour.
Serendipity here.
Serendipity. It happens.
Yeah, it does.
You
It does.
never know
You
when these
know.
opportunities are going to present themselves.
Yep. Yep, totally. The
So,
more people that you interact with and talk to, the more chances that it happens. I was just talking to, I just forgot his name now, Jason from TechZing, and he had met the CEO of Uber, like at just just a random chance, and then he ended up architecting the whole Uber their initial infrastructure. They're using Node.js, and so he ended up becoming like I don't know numbers like single digit or very low 2-digit employee at Uber. So
nice.
that's pretty cool. Like it just happens.
Yeah.
But
So number one, be a product champion.
yeah, number
Number
one.
two, assign a specific dollar amount to yourself. And I guess that your bonus material is, just work on interacting with everyone that you can, because that's
Yeah.
only going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're a perfect example of it for sure. Like you reached out to all of us on the Entre Programmers podcast. Like you made it so like we needed to interact with you because you gave us information, feedback, and you just acted like, hey, I'm already in the crowd.
Yeah.
So then we accepted you in the crowd. It's like it's cool.
Thanks for
Like
having me.
yeah, I mean but that's how you do it, right? That's how you do it. It's like not you didn't do it arrogantly, you didn't do it cocky. You said like, hey, look, I've got stuff to share and I want to share it. And I think that's cool. That's the spirit of. So I wanted to take a second. We're running a little bit out of time here, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about the stuff you're doing because you're doing all kinds of cool stuff. It's not just
Cool.
that you've come up in come up the ranks in the salary, but I mean you've got I can see the orange and you've got your Matt Kramer logo.
I got my logo on my chest.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of people don't have a shirt with their logo on it, and you've got your podcast. Right?
Yeah.
At mattkramer.com. And I was actually on the podcast, and you've got a lot of cool people. And the podcast is a lot about launching a product, right?
Yep. Building, launching, and marketing products. And we have everything on there from people telling you essentials on how to market your SaaS business to how to write and launch a tech book to episode number 11 with you about how to market yourself as a software developer. So I'm really trying to just tell people help programmers know that they can build, launch, and market products and themselves effectively.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
So,
That's
and you can
awesome.
find that stuff on my blog and my podcast, both at mattkramer.com, and that's Kremer.
Okay.
And then I've also got a book that I just released called Building Software Products in a Weekend.
Now, and you built this book in 24 hours.
I
Right?
wrote it in 24 hours.
Okay, that's pretty crazy.
So I wrote it in 24 hours. Then I took some time and I edited it, obviously. And then John was actually nice enough here to help me find somebody to design the page layout and the cover for the book. And I think it turned out really, really well. And it teaches you, yet again, a couple tricks or experiences that I've found to help you literally launch a software product in a single weekend. And you can find that at mattkramer.com/weekend. That's where you can download the book for free, by the way.
Okay, yes, and that's good because you're giving away a lot of value for free there. So, and then you even built an app, right? You've got a shared coding app, the Cobra.io, is it called?
Yeah, it's Cobra.io with a K, not a C.
Okay.
And that's an online collaborative tool for programmers with built-in video and voice chat. So you can paste code in, work with coders, and then take it out. And then that was kind of the basis for my book, actually, because I built Cobra, the new version. I built it in 36 hours.
Wow.
So the whole app, front to back, I built it in 36 hours.
And
then
it looks nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then before I even launched it, before I even spent the 36 hours doing it, over 100 people paid me for it. And I made $2,000 in 4 days. Launching it with no work, then took 36 hours of time and launched it. So, I mean, I don't know what $2,000 is divided by 36 hours, but that was a fun experience at a high dollar amount per hour ratio.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and it's not like you had an audience then. I
No.
mean, you had very little. So I mean, imagine if you had a big. It's amazing to do this in such a short period of time. You're doing all these things that it's like you're doing the things that I was doing a couple of years ago, except that I have 15 years development experience. So it's kind of crazy that it's 3 years ago you were literally getting your car out out of toe and applying for Applebee's job while working McDonald's or whatever. So that's cool. I just want to emphasize that because I think some people might be like, well, I don't quite get it. Oh no, you have to understand how accelerated this pace is, and that's why I mean you've got the techniques that you're using, the way that you've gone about this. I think is something that everyone could utilize. Doesn't matter if you're just starting out. Obviously, get the jump start and follow what Matt's saying. But if you're experienced as well, I mean, yes, all of this stuff, like, I mean, you can do this, right? You can write a book in 24 hours. You can ship things, like you can get stuff out the door.
You can get a $15,000 raise.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And three of them in a period of 2 years.
Yeah.
Like you can do these things, and a lot of this too is finding mentors and listening to them, and for me, that's the entre-programmers, so the reason I might be doing this at an accelerated pace, or at least, you say I am, it's because I'm building on all these experiences that you guys are going through, and I'm seeing them, and able to execute them without faltering as much. So, go out, find more information like this video, go research, find your mentors, and I mean, pay attention to them.
Cool. Well, appreciate that. Glad that we were able to help you with Entre-Programmers. It's not just rambling. So
yeah.
But all right, thanks a lot, Matt. Really appreciate it. This is great. Keep me updated. Definitely, I'm sure we'll be in touch. But and then we'll also probably do like a little bit of a blog post, kind of summarize your points.
Cool.
And yeah, this will be good. All right.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, if you like this video, if you want to see more interviews, definitely leave comments below and let me know and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. All right. Talk to you guys next time. Take care.